On a fine day, the mountains and reeks of Kerry can look inviting. You'd be a fool, of course, to tackle some of the shaly-sided peaks unless you knew something about rock climbing. But a gentle walk through the hills might seem a good idea to the unwary. But mountains are killers, and the Kerry Mountain Ranges have an unenviable reputation for taking lives.
I believe that in the coming year that we would have tragic accidents on these mountains.
And that's why the Kerry Mountain Rescue Team was formed not many years ago, to seek and find the bodies of the unlucky, to search out and rescue the more fortunate, the ones who stray away but manage to survive.
Port Falta, for example, won't have any money for us before 1973. And we simply can't say to people, don't get killed or don't get hurt between now and then.
You must respect the mountains, for if you don't, you can get into trouble very quickly.
It never happens to them, it always happens to somebody else.
And by risking your life on a mountainside, you put the lives of others at risk too, the men and sometimes women who voluntarily get a search going.
He should have a map and compass and know how to use it, or else get somebody local who can guide him, and he should never go out on his own.
The majority of the Kerry Mountain Rescue Team are members of the Lown Mountaineering Club based on Killorglin. They're veterans now, and until quite recently, they've been the best equipped rescue team in the country. They even have a second-hand military truck to get their rescue teams quickly into action. The trouble is, though, that now the tires on that truck are so bald that they daren't take it out onto the road, and other and quite expensive equipment also needs to be replaced. Radios, stretchers, even a field kitchen are necessities. But if there was an emergency on the mountain tomorrow, the truck couldn't carry them, and the team, looking like Muldoon's picnic, would have to get to their base as best they could. But to replace worn-out equipment needs money, and officially the rescue team has no source of income. 3 years ago, the local regional tourism organisation gave them £100. Since then, nothing. And to exist at all, the team has to beg for money outside local churches. Now, they're not looking for pay. They want nothing for themselves. But they do feel that in an area where it's the tourists who take the risks, that tourist interests should cough up.
We'd spend about £200 keeping our truck going and £100 on expenses, food and equipment and that.
And where does all this money come from, your running costs?
We have to collect it whatever way we can. We do everything from fancy dresses to garden fetes and dances and beg some of it.
And now you've got the church collections going.
We have church collections, yeah.
Paddy, you've arrived at a stage now, virtually, where you need money pretty desperately.
If we don't get money now, we're quite liable to go out of business, because from our own personal contributions, we can't afford the type of outlay that is required.
The case that you're making is that some of the costs, at least, should come from tourist interests.
Definitely. We believe this, and we have always believed this, because most of the people who are involved, by this I mean most of the people that we've had to go out and search for our rescue, have always been in the tourist category. They have come here as tourists and they've gone mountain walking, they've either got lost or got hurt, and we've had to go out and get them. So we believe that the tourist people should come along and help us.
Well, in actual fact, Seán, in the early days of the club, the local regional tourist organisation did help you, didn't they?
They gave us £100, but that was spent straight away on a stretcher. And they did make the point at the time that there was no reason why we should give our time and have to collect money as well, but still we've had nothing since then.
You've approached them since then?
We have, yeah.
One of the local papers that I saw, in referring to this whole business, said that the tourist interests had snubbed the mountain rescue team. Is this putting things a bit strongly?
It probably is putting it a bit strongly, but, we tried the hotels in the early days and we got very little from them.
You definitely feel the money should come from tourist interests?
We do. We feel this quite strongly.
What about local authorities? After all, you're a voluntary group doing a job which has to be done by somebody.
We are trying the local authorities at the moment, but their answer has been in the past that there is no way in which they can pay us money, that there's no statutory instrument, there's no act that would allow them to pay money for mountain rescue.
Seán, in other countries where there are mountaineers, Wales, say, Scotland, how are rescue teams financed there? What's the setup there?
Well, in Wales, it's mainly RAF work because they are always aware of the possibility of planes crashing in the mountains, so they look after it in Wales. In Scotland, it's a police responsibility. The local authorities pay the police there, and the police reimburse any voluntary workers their expenses.
Now, quite obviously, it seems to me, Paddy, that there must be a fund of goodwill towards you people and the work you're doing. I know that's not going to buy you any new equipment or anything like that, but suppose you didn't exist, or through lack of funds went out of existence. What would then have to happen here?
Well, people that we may otherwise be in a position to rescue may not be rescued, and this is a pity, because one can't measure value on a human life. So I think it is a pity, and I can see this happening if some organisation like the tourist people or the local authority don't come to our rescue financially. It will be certainly left to other people who themselves maintain they are not geared for this kind of work.
You're talking about the guards,
Yes.
or perhaps the army or somebody like that, who are not expert in mountain climbing.
That's right,
anyway.
yes.
Right. The point you make, Seán, is that most of the people that are lost on the mountains are tourists. Now, what would a typical rescue operation involve you in? Let's take the last one. Now, was he a tourist?
He was a tourist. He was an English university student working in a local hotel, and two of his friends came on holidays, and the three went climbing on the mountains here nearby. Not very well equipped. What killed him, actually, and we saw this from our investigation afterwards, was that he had smooth-soled shoes, and that's what killed him.
What would your advice be to somebody who's not a mountain climber going out on the mountain? What should he do?
Well, you should certainly dress well. You need a good pair of boots. You must have warm, waterproof clothing. You must take food, something like glucose, so that if you're cut out overnight, you'll survive. You would need something like a polythene bag that can be used as a survival bag if you have to stay out overnight. You should certainly not go on your own. You want companions. You should be able to use map and compass, or else take a local guide.
But by putting themselves in danger, they put your life at peril because you've got to go out and rescue
Yeah,
them.
but they never consider this when they're going out. They're just going for a walk in the hills. What comes after, as far as they're concerned, is completely accidental.
And your warning is?
Our warning is certainly what John had to say, plus that before they go, they should tell somebody that they're, number one, going, where they're going, and who they're going with. I think this is terribly important.